Brother Nashi, how are you? I am a 45-year-old woman. I am currently living here in Gauteng. My story begins 20 years ago when I was young. I was young and I was an ambitious student, and I was a student nurse by then. Because I came from a very poor background, brother, I managed to get to college before I could even sleep with a man. There were other guys that wanted me because of my background. I had told myself that I was going to be the first one in the family who was going to have this breakthrough. So I said, help me, God, so that I can go through college without sleeping with any man. I was waiting for the right guy, but I don't know how God really operates, because the man that I ended up with, maybe it was because already I was someone that loved money, not like one of these slay queen girls. I was someone that just wanted to be with a man who was going to deserve me, and by that I meant a man that had money, that was going to take care of me, since I had managed to take care of my body ever since I was still young. And in high school, the pressure of other boys trying to sleep with me, but I was waiting for the right man. So I just did not want to give my virginity to a man that was broke. I wanted a man that had money. I then ended up working at one of the top hospitals in Joburg. That was when I met a man whom I will call Dr. Trevor. He was everything that every woman wanted. He was a brilliant specialist. He had money. He was wealthy. He ran several companies, even though he was a doctor, and he was from Zim originally, and he had built a massive life here in South Africa. He drove a nice car. I had never been inside of a Jaguar. First time in my life when I got into that vehicle, it felt so amazing, and I loved the way that he always smiled at me whenever we would run into each other. Slowly but surely, he started to show interest in me. Yet there was one girl whom I was working with who had told me that this doctor was already showing interest in him. So when the doctor told me that he wanted to go on a date with me, and I told him that my friend had already told me that they were dating, he laughed and he said, no, let me go and ask her. And she came to me and she was like, why did you tell him that we are dating? Why didn't you lie to him and say that you do not want to go on a date with him? So by then I felt like I had already won the lottery. I thought that finally God had seen the struggles of my family, and I was going to marry a man that had money. We got married. It was a beautiful ceremony, and then we bought a massive house in a luxury estate. I stopped working because he wanted me to be like a traditional woman. You do not go to work. You are always at home, and your duty as a wife is just to serve your husband. When you are told to serve your husband in a situation where there is a lot of money, it simply feels amazing. That is what I felt at the time when he said that he wanted me to become the queen of his house, just to enjoy money, getting my hair done, my makeup, and all that I had to do was to sit at home and wait for him to return back home. But shortly after we had started to stay together, after our honeymoon, I noticed something that was very strange for a medical doctor. My husband, he did not bath. Trevor did not bath. He did not enjoy being in water at all. As a nurse, I know about hygiene, but my husband, a man who worked in a clean operating environment, in clean theaters, he would go 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, without even stepping into the shower. He would use this expensive perfume to hide the scent. And I used to fight with him about this. I'll be like, do you know how boring it is for someone who has not bathed yesterday, today, and then that person takes some cologne and then they try to spray it? And I would tell him that it will be mixing bad odor and with this perfume odor, and it will make it to be smelly, and he'll be like, no, this is expensive one that I bought from Italy. He would smell so heavy, and whenever this would happen, I would fight with him. When I would ask him about it, he would get very angry. He would say that he has a terrible skin condition and he never wanted us to go to any doctor about it, even his own friends. I would say, let us go with you so that we can get you tested to see if you have any form of any allergy. And he would start to fight with me, and he would say, no, I do not want that. Let me just see what I can do. I would treat myself in my own way. He was like someone who will do things that you would not even expect a doctor to do. He would go to different sangomas and he would get herbs. The only time that you would see him bathing, he would have gone to a marketplace in Joburg where they sell these traditional herbs, and he would bring them and he would put them into the bathtub first, let them soak in, and he would go and bath. Even after getting out of the bathroom, he would be smelling because of those herbs that he would have used. So once or twice a month, he would go into the bathroom and he would not use the shower. He would lock the doors for hours and hours. One night, I decided to open the door just when he got inside, and he told me to lock the door behind me. I pretended as if I was going to take the key and lock it from the outside, but I did not do such a thing. I waited and I waited. I saw my husband sitting in the bathtub, and then he bathed himself, and then he took this other bottle that he always carried to the bathroom. It had milk. Then he started to wash his private part underneath his armpits with white milk. And I saw a woman. I don't know how to properly explain it to you. I saw a woman that was in there. When I opened the door, that bottle of milk, it just disappeared, and he tried to act as if it had fallen into the water. I asked him about the woman that I had seen, and then he told me that no, there was no such thing that had happened. Maybe I was hallucinating. And this thing of me hallucinating, he used to love it. Each and every time, whenever I would see things in our house, he would say, you are hallucinating. There was a time when he went to Europe. He wanted to go to Europe with his brothers. I don't know what they were supposed to do there in Europe, and I was home alone. Brother, when I was fast asleep, that was when I heard that there was someone that was busy in my kitchen. So I got up and then I went downstairs. I saw a woman that was completely naked, and this woman was busy washing my plates. She did not even look at me. She acted as if she was not even seeing me. Then she just disappeared. The moment that she disappeared, I screamed out loud and I ran out of my own house because of the things that I had seen. A woman that was completely naked, and the woman was busy doing my dishes. I tried to reach out to him, and a couple of minutes before that, I had been speaking with my husband on the phone. But when I wanted to reach out to him to tell him that this was what had happened, I had seen a Tokoloshe in my house, suddenly I could not be able to communicate with my husband anymore until he returned back to South Africa with a lot of stories. And you know, in Europe, you can't say that when you were in Europe, you were staying in a place where there was no network. Is it even possible? So we started to fight. Me and my husband, we would fight. When I would say, let us go to church, he never wanted to go to church. And there was one thing that I did not like about my husband. He would go on and on and on and on talking about his wife, the woman that he had gotten married to before I had married him. And this woman had died in a terrible accident. And as I was getting to know most of his family members, there were those that liked me. They would be like, Makoti, whenever I would go to his country, and the people were very friendly with me. There was one who was the cousin sister. She liked me quite a lot, and she was someone that loved to gossip. If you would tell her a secret, even my own secrets, she would share that secret with the rest of the family. My husband had already warned me about that cousin sister, and whenever he would see me speaking with the cousin sister, he would come and ask me what is it that my cousin sister was telling me, and I would say nothing. We are just talking about woman stuff. So he did not trust the cousin sister. I started to tell the cousin sister everything that was happening at our house in South Africa, and she would be like, hey, you don't even know that he sacrificed him. You don't even know, ne? In that same house where you are staying, I know that there are some of the clothes that belonged to that woman, because the family, they refused to take the clothes after their daughter had passed away. And then he took the clothes to South Africa. He used to keep them in his old house, but I'm pretty sure that now, wherever he is staying, where you are staying with him, that is where the clothes are. Because when he went to a traditional healer, he was told to keep the spirit of his wife happy, and the way that he can do so is by keeping everything that once belonged to him by his side at all the times. Even when he is traveling, he always carry, it's either her bra or something that she used to wear. And this was something that was not new to me. I had once seen a thong in my husband's car, and we fought about it, and he did not want to tell me where this thong had came from. He just remained quiet, and he was like, I'll never cheat on you, I'll never cheat on you. But he failed to explain as to how that woman's thong had gotten into his car. And when my sister-in-law was telling me that this was what had happened, that was when I started to understand that the man that I was staying with, he was someone that was a Satanist. I did not even know about money rituals at that time. Since I now knew what had happened to the first wife, I started to look and search in some places that I would not even search. There was one room which he had told me that he keeps his tools because he loved to do carpentry whenever he was not at work. So I got into that room. When I got into that room, that was when I saw that there was a traveling bag that was in there. And this traveling bag, it had women's clothes as well as the photos of that woman. And I knew that she was the one that was my husband's late wife. And then I went to a Sangoma. The Sangoma told me that my husband, he was someone that had sacrificed his own wife, and that woman, she wanted him to keep him by his side at all the times. And the woman that I had seen in the bathroom, it was the ghost of that woman. And whenever my husband will avoid to be intimate with me, it is because the spirit would have gotten jealous, and she'll be like, you have been sleeping with your wife all the times, you have forgotten about me. And that was what used to happen. My husband, there were times when he would refuse to sleep with me, and he would say that he was tired, and I would wake up in the middle of the night with his manhood in his hands, and it will be fully erect and hard. When I would wake him up, he would tell me that he was having a wet dream, and he did not want us to discuss a lot about his wet dreams, because I will be like, how is it possible that you, as a man that is staying with a woman 24/7, you can sleep with me whenever you want to, but you are still having these wet dreams? Anyway, Brother Nashim, we had 2 sons. I still have my children, and I thank God that this man, he is no longer in our lives. So my oldest son, he started to see things in his bedroom. Whenever their father was not around, I would even feel afraid. I would sleep with my sons in my bedroom, because my son would say that he was seeing a short woman with long hair and beard sitting close to his bed, and this woman would be talking to him. So it was really scary. Me and my husband, we were fighting at all the times. When he would have known that I have gone to a Sangoma, he would even beat me up. 7 years after our second son was born, that was when my husband took me back to his village. We went there for Christmas holidays. When we were there, that was when he fought with a Sangoma that stayed in that same village, and he took out a gun and he threatened that Sangoma with a gun. And when we were driving back, the day when we were supposed to come to South Africa, I fell sick and I could not even wake up. So I said, I can't go with you using the road. I am going back to South Africa by flight. So I had to book, and then I had to wait for the day that I would have booked for the flight for me and the kids to return back. So he then said that I'm going to be waiting for you in Joburg. I said it is fine. By then, I had already concluded in my heart that I wanted to divorce my husband. My husband then left. When my husband left, that was when we heard that he had an accident. The report was that the car, it flipped more than 5 times on a straight road, and he just died. My husband, he died instantly. The villagers that saw the way that the car flipped, they said that it was as if there was a hidden invisible tree that was in the middle of the road that had made the car to flip over and over again. And this car, it just exploded when those villagers were approaching the car, trying to get him out of the car because he was still alive. My husband, he was burnt to death. When my husband died, I received an estate, but the wealth that my husband once had, it simply disappeared overnight. My husband used to have money. Right now, Brother Nashi, if my husband's wealth was real wealth, I could have become maybe a billionaire, but I'm just surviving. This is my confession. Yo, dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sister. Let us talk with our dear sister in the comment section. Strange things indeed. They do happen in this world. Yo, let us meet again in the following episode.